Iowa State University's Writing and Media Center welcomes you to an explanation of essay introductions entitled The Introduction: Tips, Tricks, and a Brief How-To. During this video, you will gain a deeper understanding of each part of an introduction and pick up some tips on how to make sure your introductions are effective. Let's begin. Introductions are important. Mainly, introductions exist to help your reader understand the what, the why, and the how of your paper. What will you be discussing? Why are you making your argument? How will your argument unfold? A properly constructed introduction will provide effective answers to each of these questions. In the vast majority of essays, an introduction is the very first paragraph of an essay. Overall, you can compare the flow of ideas in an introduction to the shape of an inverted triangle. The ideas in the introduction begin more broadly and then, over the course of the introduction, narrow down to your specific argument and main points. First, introductions must begin by hooking the reader's attention. Then, introductions contextualize and describe the main idea. These explanations lead to the thesis of the essay, which is followed by the specific preview of the essay's main points. While not all disciplines use this exact same structure for introductions, some of the pieces are almost always present. So, let's discuss each of these segments in more detail. The best way to get your audience's attention at the beginning of an essay is by using a hook. A hook catches the reader's attention and introduces the broad topic of the paper. Questions, quotations, anecdotes, statistics, short narratives, and other types of content can all be used as hooks. For example, consider the following use of an anecdote in example 1. In March of 2020, Nintendo sold double the number of Switch consoles than during March 2019. Statistics are also useful. As in example 2, at 111 feet, 6 inches tall, and weighing in at 225 tons, the Statue of Liberty is an impressive piece of art. After you've gotten your audience's attention, you have to help them understand your topic. This is an important part of the introduction, since if your audience doesn't understand the context or particular terms you may be using in your paper, they will not understand your argument or its importance. So be sure you are providing the explanation, context, and definitions your audience might need. For instance, consider these options and examples that help explain the hooks provided earlier. In example 1, we see the context of Nintendo being explored. These numbers show the console's continuing appeal in the US, with recent titles like Animal Crossing New Horizons and Pokemon Sword and Shield. The Switch has been a lucrative console for the Japanese company. And in example 2, the statue is further defined since the location and purpose of the statue is explored. Situated in New York City Harbor, the Statue of Liberty has long greeted visitors and immigrants to the United States. Once you've hooked your audience and explained relevant context, you're ready to share your thesis. The thesis is the central argument of an essay. For your thesis, make sure you are including both a clear statement of your topic and your stance about said topic. Clearly state your argument. In this way, you will fulfill both the topic and the stance portions of a good thesis. In example 1, the writer is proposing a future set of actions for Nintendo, which, given the flaws of the Switch's design as a gaming platform, someone could argue against. The ability to argue against a thesis is a sign that the thesis is well written. In example 2, the writer is also taking an arguable stance by saying the Statue of Liberty, rather than any other piece of art, is the piece of art that best encapsulates the American spirit. Please pause the video to read the examples. The final move that an introduction will make is previewing the main points of the essay. A preview is a clear description of each point in an essay that is often written in list format. Note that the preview sentence is often an optional part of an introduction. In example 1, note that this preview shows the 3 main arguments that the writer will make. The Switch is an ideal design for future Nintendo consoles since the design allows Nintendo to focus making games for one console rather than 2. It is a mobile console and it is easy for third-party companies to create games for. Building off of the thesis previously discussed, see how example 2 previews the points of this hypothetical paper. To explain the artistic importance of the Statue of Liberty, I will discuss the history of the statue, the artistry of her design, and the symbolic meaning of her torch and clothing. Keep in mind that, depending on the paper, it is possible to switch the order of the thesis and preview to great effect. In a full introduction, the hook, transition, thesis, and preview work together to introduce both the topic of discussion and the specific argument of the writer. Note the flow of information in this example 1. Please pause the video to read the example. While shorter, this example 2 introduction hits every point that a solid introduction should. Please pause the video to read the example. In addition to the previous descriptions of the structure of an introduction, please use these tips to help write and revise your own introduction. Cite sources properly. Maintain a general to specific flow. Write a clear, arguable thesis. Preview main points in the order you discuss them. Check that your reader could understand the premise and focus of your paper by the end of the introduction. Try writing your introduction last. You'll have the clearest understanding of your main points. Revise as needed to make sure the thesis and main points match your paper. If a paper has cited material, as this presentation has, then a works cited in MLA or a references page in APA is required. Including the date of access is particularly important, as exemplified by the StatUFacts source. That website, where the information came from, is no longer accessible, but the history of where that information came from is saved by this record. If you would like to bring your introduction or any writing for some further guidance, don't hesitate to make an appointment by contacting us. We'll see you on the next writing video.